You've heard me say many times that we start every client here at Personal Edge with a consult. We don't just have anybody come in and just start working out, no matter if they've told us their goals, no matter what they are, because we're really looking to find out why they're really here. It's not just to lose weight. There's a reason why you want to lose weight. There's a reason why you want to get faster. There's a reason why you want to get stronger. And that reason is what, once we solve that, we've basically solved your level of wellness, which is our goal. I've talked about things that we talk about in consults, but strictly, most of the time from the client's point of view. But what I've never shared with you is that, believe it or not, there is a favorite question that I receive, that I look for, that I love getting in consults. And I want to share that with you today on the Personalized Fitness Podcast. Good day and welcome to the Personalized Fitness Podcast. My name is Garrett Williamson, president of Personalized Fitness. Thank you so much for joining me today for today's podcast covering my favorite question in a consult, a favorite question from a client. Now, if you're interested in if you have any questions about this podcast or any others, or if you have any questions for Katie, we have an episode coming up pretty soon. Her question box is filling up with questions covering all aspects of health fitness. It's amazing the questions that we get asked. Well, we've got that segment coming up. Or if you happen to have any questions about dispelling the myths of health, fitness, and wellness, please contact us at area code 251-278-3343. That's 251-278-EDGE. You can also reach out to us at my email address, which is Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com, which is, of course, my email address. You can reach out to us on our website with personaledgefitness.com, and Personal Edge Fitness is also our Facebook page. Hit me up on Twitter at Team PE with any of your questions you have about this or any other podcast. The consult, extremely important. That really lays the groundwork and gives us an opportunity to really get to know a client. Now that sounds wonderful, doesn't it? It sounds, oh wow, that's really a glowing or a something that's blown out of proportion. Let's put it that way. It sounds some kind of a strange sales technique that I'm going to do a consult. Actually, no, it's extremely important, and too many people in our field skip this very important process. They hear a goal, want to lose 10 pounds. They've got the professional has a set way of reaching those 10 pounds. That 10 pound, they'll put them right on their weight loss program that we have for everybody, and boom, here we go. Or they're trying to improve performance, so they go straight to the exercises that improve performance, and that is important. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the great thing of it, the professionals here at Personalized Fitness, we can do that stuff in our sleep. That's easy. What's more challenging is finding out why. Answering that why is the most important thing that we do here at Personalized Fitness. That is, as I said in the very first podcast that we did, go back and listen to podcast number 1. You might want to try to figure out some way to slow down the speed because you think I talk fast now. I was talking way too fast in those earlier podcasts. But I told you in podcast number 1, everybody is after the same thing. It sounds like we're just generalizing. We're not generalizing. Everybody's here to answer their why. They're seeking, when they come to see us at Personalized Fitness, they are seeking to reach what we call their level of wellness. And the level of wellness, did a whole podcast that's in the podcast number 1. I've talked about so many times and defined it as basically what makes you feel better about being yourself. Getting to that level of changes in nutrition, alterations you do to your exercise, and basically the comfortable place where you're doing the amount of work that you want to do, you're making the changes you want to make, and you're getting the results and feeling better about yourself in total. You're comfortable with the amount of exercise, you're comfortable with the nutrition changes, and you're comfortable where your body is at that time. Once you hit that trifecta, you've reached your level of wellness. And that's what we're looking for mostly in the consult. We want to find out if there's any aches and pains. We want to find out if there's any injuries that we need to deal with. And sure, we're interested in getting your history, but we're really trying to find out where your head is. But on the flip side of that, we love getting all those answers, obviously. That really helps us put together a good program for somebody. But I was reminded the other day when doing my one-to-one with my Vistage coach. Now, I've spoken about this on the podcast before about the fact that I've been a 10 or 11-year member of Vistage International, the world's largest CEO organization. This group of 13 individuals and a business coach helped me set up my strategic plan for growing Personal Edge, growing my business, and doing what's best for our clients. The group is incredibly I mean, it totally invaluable. I mean, I almost can't operate without them because I've got several great business minds that are helping me build the right business. And the proof's in the pudding. I mean, we're the number one personal training facility in the Southeast with the most qualified staff. And we've enjoyed success with our clients. We've enjoyed success in the business itself. And any success that we have is attributed to the success that our clients receive. But I was talking to my business coach, and we were discussing the greatest. Somehow we got on the topic, and I brought up the example of the greatest question I ever received. And he wrote that down, and he said, more people need to know this. And I thought about it, and I thought, wow, I've never shared that. I've never shared what was the greatest question I ever received in a consult. I've only received it a very few times, but I absolutely love getting it. And it's so important to me that I wish every client that approached at least every personal trainer, if not almost every professional that you buy a service from, would get this question. And I wanted to share that with you today. It's very important to me, obviously, if I'm doing a whole podcast on it. But this all started with, and I'm gonna go ahead and say the client's name. I'm sorry that he's no longer with us. He passed away some years ago. But a gentleman who was a former state senator, former actually not former, but he was an attorney. He was actually a Harvard Law graduate, and a very, 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 very bright individual. Now, like a lot of our clients, he was referred to me by an existing client, and we'll get referrals. We'll have somebody had somebody just the other day. They're sending me a referral that's a neighbor of theirs, and my client found out that they had some health challenges. Said, look, you really need to go to Personal Edge. They're the ones that have the expertise to handle what you're dealing with, and that's a very common referral. But sometimes they go even deeper than that. And what I mean by deeper than that is, it'll be a referral from a client that's been with us for double-digit years. I mean, been with us for 20 years, 22 years. In this case, this client had been with me. This was early on in my career, but this client at that time had been with me 5 years, and that's quite a bit of time. I mean, at that time, that was back in this is actually early 2000 when I got this referral. Not only that, the new client coming in not only was referred to a client that had been with me for 4 or 5 years by that time. This client of mine was dear friends with this new client, and somebody that he trusted implicitly. They had actually been in he was a state legislature himself. My client was, and these two had been in the state senate together, and they were hunting buddies. They knew each other well. So typically, a referral from somebody like that, well, that carries a lot of weight with the new client coming in, and many times they have. My clients that do the referrals that are that deep into a relationship with a new referral, all the questions are answered. I mean, the consult is, hey, let me tell you my aches and pains. Let's get going. I've already heard all about you, and not only do I know your reputation, but somebody who I highly trust has recommended me to you. So I don't have a whole lot of questions about you, about Personal Edge, about Garrett Williamson. That's where this state senator, this former state senator, was. I mean, he'd been referred to somebody near and dear to us, and he came in and introduced himself. His name is Pierre Pelham, somebody I thought highly of. He was a wonderful client. Thoroughly enjoyed working with him. And I'll never forget, when he came in, I actually thought, I know who you've been referred by. I'm thinking, we're basically just need to set up the schedule. I need to find out what your why is, and then we need to set up the schedule and we need to get going. And he sat in my little office, and I'll never forget, I can see it in my mind's eye, sat down, crossed his legs, folded his arms, looked at me, and said, he had a very syrupy voice, What qualifies you to work with me? I'll never forget that as long as I live. Here is somebody that was several steps deep in the personal edge of family. I mean, about Garrett Williamson, as far as knowing about Garrett Williamson, he was several steps deep into understanding me. Knew my family, knew several clients that work with me. But he sat down and he asked. It was almost like, I don't care about all that. I want you to tell me what qualifies you to work with me. And I remember I took a breath, sat back, and I can never forget the overwhelming joy. The overwhelming joy that I felt receiving that question. And I remember my response to him. I'm so proud of myself for having this response. But I remember my response to him was, thank you. Thank you so much for asking me that. And then I responded, I wish every potential client would ask me that question. I'll take it a step further. I wish that every potential client of any personal trainer would sit down in front of that trainer and ask, what qualifies you to work with me? They don't have to do the accent. Because all I could think was, boy, let me tell you. As I've said many times in this field, we're not licensed. And as y'all well know, I'm not a big fan of the government being involved in anything that I do. But not having that licensure, not having that registration, not having that beyond a weekend certification that just any certifying body deems that you can have. If we had that licensure, whatever, at least it would raise the bar. There would be a set of standards, accepted standards in the field. Right now, since there's not a licensing in personal training, anybody can call themselves a personal trainer. Scarier than that, any certifying body can say it is a certifying body of personal training. There are no standards established in the field. In my mind, there are standards, and because there are better ones out there. You only know that if you have the kind of education that we have. But there are certain certifications that I'm a big fan of. I've said them on the show before, and I've given you reasons why I say that. NSCA, National Strength and Conditioning Association, offers a certification called CSCS, Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist. Probably one of the most difficult certifications to get, but they are in depth. They are in depth about the questions they ask and how they test people, and not everybody gets their CSCS. I've talked to potential trainers that have failed the CSCS certification multiple times, and they're actually graduates with degrees in exercise science, physiology, kinesiology, sport medicine, or athletic training. NATA. This is a special one. This is one you typically don't see in personal training fields. In fact, I know of very few. In fact, I honestly don't know of any outside of Personal Edge Fitness. Any other personal training facilities that try and actively, aggressively try to hire NATA certified trainers. Now, NATA is the National Athletic Trainers Association. These are the athletic trainers, what I typically call ATCs, or sport medicine graduates. They have to have a degree in the field. That degree is now, this is established by NATA. That degree now is a master's level degree. It's not even undergraduate anymore. They don't offer it nationwide. They don't offer it as a bachelor's degree. It is moved. It has been required by the NATA, National Athletic Trainers Association, that it has to be a master's degree. And this is a rehab field. Typically, these individuals are trained with the same physiology and kinesiology that an exercise specialist has, or exercise scientist, has, or kinesiologist has. But on top of that, they're trained in rehabilitation. Since we see so much of that, this is another certification that we go after, we highly seek. And the last one is the American College of Sport Medicine. Why ACSM? It's not just because I happen to be an ACSM HFI, Health Fitness Instructor. That's my certification. But more importantly, they are the gold standard because every certifying body, even NATA, uses the book produced by the American College of Sport Medicine, which is the Guidelines to Exercise Testing and Prescription. That is the Bible in exercise. Every certifying body out there, NASM, National Athletic Sports, National Athletic Sport Medicine. I'm not sure that's a rather, it's new. It's they've put a lot in their marketing. They've offered tons of certifications. They've got a certification called Corrective Exercise Specialist, and they're getting a lot of traction. They still don't meet up with those other three: ACSM, NATA, and NSCA. But even NASM, even NASM, they use the exercise testing and prescription guidelines produced by the ACSM. ACE uses it. AFA uses it. I remember being at ACSM convention in ACE, American Council on Exercise, which was a big certifying body, still is, but they were really big boys. They actually set up a booth at the ACSM convention. In other words, they thought so much of ACSM, they actually set a booth up there for certification. But as I was saying earlier, this field isn't licensed. I say that there are standards set, and they're set by those three certifying bodies, as well as having a degree in the field. Now, you've heard me harp on that several times, but since there isn't a licensing procedure, in order for us to put some baseline standards in what we do, we require every single trainer at Personalized Fitness to have at least a bachelor's degree in the field of either exercise science, exercise physiology, kinesiology, sport medicine, and athletic training. We put more weight, even after I've talked about those three certifying bodies, we put more weight on that degree than we do on a certification. Why? Well, the degree takes at minimum 4 years. There's a lot more education, many more hours of kinesiology, of physiology, of biology, of anatomy. Far more than you can get in any certification, period. You can't tell me that somebody's going to study for 3 weeks and get what somebody gets in 4 years. Plus the prerequisite courses that somebody has taken to get a college degree, that's going to help them think far more analytically. It's going to help them think far deeper. It's also going to help them in not just exercise prescription, but in working with the client. So when I answered Mr. Pelham's question, I stated simply, well, I've got a bachelor's degree in exercise science. I have a master's degree in fitness management. I have a certification for ACSM, one of the certification that you cannot get unless you have a degree in the field. At that time, and if I would answer that question now, I'd say, well, I've been a personal trainer for 30 years. I've run the top personal training facility in the Southeast with the most qualified staff and the lowest turnover rate and the longest tenure rate. Turnover rate is how many people leave basically in a year. And we have one of the lowest turnover rates in the nation in all of another acronym, IHRSA, IHRSA, International Health, Racket, and Sports Administration. That is our governing body. That's like the AMA, the American Medical Association. It's like the AMA of exercise is IHRSA. And IHRSA puts out stats on turnover rates. They put stats on tenure of clients, how long a client typically stays, or an average client stay at a facility, which the average client stay in IHRSA for a personal trainer is typically around a year. The average client stay, the average client tenure at Personalized Fitness is 5.6 years. The other caveat in this, and this is what I find very interesting, is that we almost don't have a category for us. And I'm very proud to share that with you. The reason I said we almost don't have another category, they do not have a measurement for contractual clients versus non-contractual clients. So when they're talking about their tenure rates of being on average a year, they're talking about a personal training client that has a contract, signed a contract with that personal trainer. And I'm sure there's some of them that don't sign contracts with personal trainers. We have never had a contract with a client. And as far as I'm concerned, we never will. We have no need for it. We have to prove ourselves every single day. So our tenure rate of 5.6 years, that is the one of the highest, if not the highest, in IRSA. But it's also competing with people and competing with facilities and gyms and trainers out there that actually have contracts with their client. Not only that, and I couldn't say this at that time because that time I was a one-man shop. Now, with the most qualified staff in the Southeast, with the amount of degrees that we have on staff, we have 3 master's degrees on staff right now. It is like I say, the most qualified staff in the Southeast. And with that variety, every single client at Personalized Fitness works with more than one trainer. Why? Because we just kind of hunt and peck and that works out with our scheduling? Absolutely not. It's because since I have the most qualified staff in the Southeast, most likely, this would make a pretty strong argument, especially with that success, especially with the numbers that I've shared with you. It's a pretty strong argument that we probably have the top personal trainer in the Southeast. But I tell you what, I know this for a fact. No trainer, not even a trainer on my staff, is as good as my team. And all of us approach a session, approach a client a little different. We all work in the same basic code of ethics, but we approach training a little different. We have our own favorites. We have our own ways of looking at a certain problem. I have ways of attacking the problem. There are thousands, millions probably, of different exercises. And there are about 100, there are hundreds, if not thousands of ways to attack almost every situation. Even all the way down to how to rehab a rotator cuff. There are different ways that a trainer goes about it. And all of us look at it a little different. Now, again, we operate on the same basic code of ethics. Believe it or not, none of us are wrong. It's just the fact that having more than one trainer work with you, you're going to get a variety of different training, and you're going to have a better chance, far better chance, of that trainer, one of those trainers, picking up on how you respond to exercise and finding a certain vein that you like to work in that not only works best for your body, but works best for your head. I like this. I like the way we're going about this. I don't like those exercises. I don't like that type of training, but I like this type of training. And then on top of that, all of our staff members work together. Now, for those of you that aren't in the field, may not know this, that's rare. It's very rare. Personal training, especially in a gym situation, is typically a lot about backstabbing and a lot about trainers not working together because they're in competition with each other. They're competing for the different clients. And so they don't work together. Many times when a trainer happens to take a break, you know, we have lives ourselves, go on a vacation or whatever, they're worried about what their clients are going to do. Many of those clients won't work with anybody else. They only work with this one person because that's the only person they're familiar with. And so when the trainer is gone, their workouts suffer. But sometimes when those trainers are gone, other trainers are coming in and trying to steal those clients. None of that exists at Personalized Fitness. Why? Because Garrett demands it? No, we have no need for that environment. And none of us want to work in that environment. At the end of the day, if you were to ask any trainer, would they like to compete every single day against other trainers for clients? Or would they like to have a working environment where the trainers actually work together? When you're out of town or when you can't help a client or when another trainer finds something out about your client that you don't know, I think those trainers would much rather somebody share that with them instead of keep that knowledge to themselves in order to compete. I'll tell you at the end of that conversation with Mr. Pellamy, he actually held his hand up when I was talking because, you know, like me, like I'm doing here, I kept talking a lot about it, and he finally put his hand up and said, okay, that's good enough. And now we were going to get into talking about his particular situation. But what qualifies you to work with me? Whether you're coming to work at Personalized Fitness or you're looking to go to another fitness professional and ask them about providing services to you, I highly recommend, I implore you to ask that question, because any professional that is afraid of that question, I'd be afraid to work with them. And you should be too. Thank you so much for allowing me to share that with you today. It's something I've wanted to share with you that I hadn't thought about sharing until Bob Slate, my business chair, actually mentioned it to me. But making sure that we can always answer that question right, making sure that we can always satisfy that question of what qualifies you to work with me is probably the most effective way that we help you reach your level of wellness. If you're interested in getting in touch with us, please call us at 251-278-3343. That's 251-278-EDGE. You can also reach me at Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com, which is our website and our Facebook page. Hit me up on Twitter at @TeamPE. Send those questions to us about for Ask Katie. We have that segment coming up in a few more podcasts. Join me next week when we'll take another step to getting you to your level of wellness. Thank you so much for joining me today.